This woman is, without a doubt, the villainess of this other world. Her name is Elodie, the illegitimate daughter of the Duke of Pedia, and also the only daughter of the ducal house. In fact, the heroine possesses two sets of memories at the same time, one from the modern world and one from this other world, because she transmigrated into a novel she had read before. And the princess she possessed is precisely the villainess who committed countless evils and was destined to die in the end. The heroine can't help but complain about this transmigration mechanism. Couldn't I have had my memories from birth? Why does it have to be now? In the past, Elodie habitually exploited the servants and indulged in utterly unrestrained luxury. If the heroine continues to follow the original plot, death will be her inevitable ending. First, she has to sort out the storyline. Her biggest trouble at the moment is her father, the Duke of Pedia, because he is a world-class archvillain. When his daughter Elodie died, the Duke of Pedia stood by and did nothing. And the reason he was indifferent to his daughter's death is Estelle Pedia, because she is the true heroine of this novel. The one who was originally engaged to the first prince was Elodie, but she was willful and unruly, with a terrible reputation, so the engagement was annulled. In order for the Duke of Pedia to secure his power by relying on the first prince, he had no choice but to adopt the heroine Estelle and have her become engaged to the prince in Elodie's place. The heroine decides to become independent and leave this family before Estelle is adopted. So, she writes the letter of breaking off the engagement in advance. Although the first prince is handsome, staying alive is more important. May you be happy. The villainous Elodie will no longer bother you. When the first prince receives the letter of dissolution, he is utterly furious. When the Duke of Pedia learns of this, he immediately questions the heroine. The heroine seems unable to figure out why exactly her father has come to see her. And in a panic, she spills out all the bad things she has done these days, apologizing over and over, frantically saying she is sorry. Her father coldly asks, "A few days ago, did you send out a letter breaking off the engagement?" The heroine replies righteously, "This is the one thing I did not do wrong." Her father is even more puzzled. "Wasn't the engagement something you wanted of your own free will?" The heroine explains, "Back then you were against our engagement, weren't you? So I thought it would be fine." Her father only says one sentence, "The situation has changed." The heroine originally thought the first prince would sign without hesitation, but she did not expect him to refuse. Her father says nothing more, only tells her to go back to her room and reflect properly. The heroine exclaims, "Breaking off an engagement is way too hard." But this also proves the Duke of Pedia's intent to support the first prince is not something she alone can overturn. The House of Pedia can be traced back to a very, very long time ago. The goddess of the underworld, Ikara, coveted the sky and the earth, so the 7 great sins wrought destruction upon the continent for her. Just as the continent was on the verge of annihilation, Ikara's younger sister, the goddess of sky and earth, Ishtar, appeared. She distributed her divine authority to 7 humans, allowing the 7 great sins to be sealed away. Those who triumphed were revered as heroes, admired by all, and they established 7 great families. This is the founding myth of Valentia. Today, among the 7 great families, including the royal family, only 5 remain. One of them is the House of Pedia, which was granted the authority of destruction. He is the heir of the House of Pedia, Ascian Pedia. Carlotte Pedia is the second son of the House of Pedia. When her older brother Ascian hears about his little sister's situation and knows she must have been scolded by their father, he comes to comfort her. The heroine knows that, as a direct descendant of the Pedia line, he has inherited a deeply potent bloodline, and his authority is eradication. What's more, he calculates people's hearts down to the bone and will trample others into the mud whenever necessary. He is the textbook definition of someone whose outward appearance doesn't match his true nature. Looking at his harmless, gentle face, the heroine almost believes him. By contrast, the second brother Carl is blunt and outspoken, dares to say anything, and is always teasing her. The moment the heroine hears him speak, she is instantly filled with anger. Ascian hypocritically tells Carl not to be so unrestrained with his words, saying that in the end they're all one family. But Carl thinks that being in the same family as the heroine is itself a highly debatable matter. Yet Ascian tells Carl and the heroine, "You two are both my adorable little Carl sisters." The heroine only finds these words so eerie that they make her shiver. After that, the heroine says she is very busy and hastily leaves. The two of them, however, both happen to feel at the same time Elodie seems to have changed. Ascian and Carl are unfriendly toward Elodie because she is considered the Duke of Pedia's illegitimate daughter. But in fact, there is another unknown secret, namely that Elodie is not even an illegitimate daughter. She and the Duke of Pedia share absolutely no blood relation. So she thinks, before the truth that she is not an illegitimate daughter comes to light, she must first become independent and move out. Thus, the heroine inherits another power from her biological parents, and that is none other than the purification authority of the House of Severes. However, the moment the heroine uses this authority, she might expose that she is not of the Pedia family and will still end up walking toward death. What's worse, the heroine's biological father, Richard Severes, the head of House Severes, is still in a coma, so the heroine decides she has to use that ability to its fullest and secure her footing before she is discovered. The first step is to seek out the Duchess of Pedia. Themis Pedia, the Duchess of Pedia, biological mother of Ossian and Carlotte, and the strongest poison maker on the continent. She had developed a highly effective pesticide for the farmers, but a recall order was soon issued. The reason for the recall is that the pesticide is just as poisonous to humans, so the heroine decides to give her a hand. The Duchess scoffs. What can a snot-nosed child like you possibly help me with? The heroine takes out a vial of potion and says to the Duchess, this is the antidote that can solve your problem. So, for the sake of becoming independent, the heroine's second step is to find a way to make money and leave this household. Of course, the Duchess cannot possibly believe her just from a few words. So the heroine proposes, we can run an experiment to prove this potion is real. The Duchess then brings out her experimental apparatus, and the pests are knocked unconscious by her poison. Next, the heroine's secret antidote is added. Whether the heroine can obtain her freedom now all depends on this little pest. In the next second, the pest comes back to life, as if nothing had happened. The excited heroine grabs the Duchess. Only then does she realize she was too carried away. After all, her relationship with the Duchess was nowhere near close enough for that. The Duchess also finds it strange. The child who had always been cautious and afraid in front of her has suddenly changed so much. The heroine can only give an awkward smile. The Duchess tells her to drop the act and directly asks, what do you want to get from me in exchange for this antidote? The heroine says, I want to sell the antidote under your name and then receive a percentage of the sales profits. The Duchess doesn't understand. Why not use your own name? But the heroine says, no one would believe I made it, and I don't want to draw attention, so I hope you can keep the secret for me. The Duchess agrees, but before that, she wants to know how the heroine actually created this antidote. The heroine tells the Duchess, her authority awakened a few days ago. It's like an authority that can destroy the toxicity of poisons. In reality, it is simply the heroine's purification. The Duchess is happy that her authority has awakened, but if this is something worth celebrating, why hide it? The heroine only says, I don't want to attract unnecessary trouble. She further emphasizes her awkward status in the family, reassuring the Duchess that it will absolutely never drag her into anything. The Duchess then understands what she means. Not long after, the first prince personally came to see her. He wanted to know why she had suddenly proposed breaking off the engagement, but the heroine said that she was in love with someone. The first prince was instantly overwhelmed with jealousy on the spot. The heroine only found it strange. According to the original novel, the first prince shouldn't react like this. In fact, the first prince simply couldn't understand. Hadn't she always coveted the position of crown princess? How could she suddenly say she likes someone else? She's clearly supposed to have feelings for me, yet she's acting as if she really doesn't care at all. But the heroine doesn't have Elodie's past memories, so she doesn't know many of the details either. The first prince coldly throws down a line. If you're trying to get my attention this way, you'd better give it up. However, if you truly want to break off the engagement, it's not as if I can't agree. At this moment, the heroine only feels her whole body going weak. As soon as the words leave his mouth, she collapses to the ground. Only after checking repeatedly does the first prince confirm that she really has fainted. He calls out for quite a while, yet no one responds at all. The first prince knows she is an illegitimate daughter, but not to the extent that she wouldn't even have a single attendant on standby. With no other choice, he has to pick her up and head for the guest rooms first. At last, he runs into the exclusive maid who always accompanies the Duke's daughter, Martha. With Martha's help, the two of them settle her in a nearby room. But Martha says calmly, without changing her expression, fainted again? Huh. The first prince can't understand how, when her mistress has fainted, the maid can remain this composed. He sees the scars on Elodie's wrist and suddenly realizes, when he saw her hand shaking earlier, he thought she was just nervous. He never imagined she was actually feeling unwell. In the first prince's heart, an unexpected twinge of guilt arises. He had always only found her annoying, yet today he suddenly feels a kind of unfamiliarity toward her. When the heroine wakes up, her first thought is, I fainted again. It turns out that in order to verify the effectiveness of the antidote, the heroine can only take poison herself. After being poisoned, she then uses her purification authority on ordinary water to create the antidote. If time is too short, she can even use the blood in her own body as an antidote. So she had only meant to give herself a casual prick, but accidentally cut herself and made a real wound. After the first prince leaves, He has the maid Martha deliver a letter to the heroine. Written in the letter is an invitation to His Majesty the Emperor's birthday banquet. It also requires her to arrive at the estate 30 minutes before the banquet begins, as he wants to see her again then. The heroine had thought he was coming to discuss breaking off the engagement. Instead, he suddenly throws a banquet at her, for which she is completely unprepared. However, her reliable maid has already prepared everything in advance. The heroine praises her in a chilling tone. "That's just wonderful, Martha." In the few days before the Emperor's birthday banquet, the heroine encounters a character from the novel who will rewrite the course of events. That is the Duke of Pedia's aide, Hector Arad. He is as loyal to the Duke as a dog, yet will stab him in the back. He is the traitor of the future. In the original story, Elodie once attempted to poison the heroine Estelle, but ultimately failed, because the poison had been switched. Although she drank the poison, Elodie, who possessed the purification authority, did not die. Instead, it led to her being exposed. She was not the Duke of Pedia's illegitimate daughter at all, and the one who swapped the poison was this very man standing before her. His reason for switching the poison was simple: to sever the relationship between the first prince and the House of Pedia. But what the heroine is more curious about is, when exactly did he start acting as the second prince's spy? The heroine decides to dig a pit for him. With a worried face, she tells Mr. Hector that she has a concern and wants his advice. She feigns helplessness. Father seems very angry, probably because I brought up breaking off the engagement. Then she twists the knife further. The reason father is angry is because I like the second prince. Hector is clearly stunned. He should indeed be stunned, because this statement is equivalent to saying that the heroine has fallen in love with her father's political enemy. If Hector has already been privately colluding with the second prince, he will definitely pass this matter on to him in full detail. Even though the heroine is an illegitimate daughter, her identity as the Duke of Pedia's daughter is still a tempting prize for hunters, but hunters often appear disguised as prey. Very soon, at the Emperor's birthday banquet, the heroine will confirm whether Arad has betrayed the Duke. The scene shifts to the heroine attending the banquet together with the first prince. Just as the first prince goes off to talk business, the heroine seizes the opportunity to walk to a place a little farther from the main hall, preferably somewhere inconspicuous and unlikely to draw attention. Sure enough, the second prince seeks out the heroine, which indirectly proves that Hector had already betrayed the Duke 3 years ago. At this moment, the first prince notices that Elodie is actually staying with that guy Bertrand. And what's even more outrageous, she is smiling so happily. The first prince immediately concludes that the person Elodie likes is that brat. The second prince Bertrand is notorious as a ladies' man, and there is even a rumor that not a single daughter of the up-and-coming families has escaped his clutches. Not only that, he often frequents pleasure districts, getting dead drunk as he stumbles around with no class or decency whatsoever, and reports against him never cease. In a single sentence, Bertrand is human scum. This makes the first prince extremely displeased. The first prince originally intends to step in and stop them, but then notices someone else. Bertrand simply gets straight to the point and invites the heroine to accompany him to the opera. In the heroine's mind, only 2 words remain: utterly speechless. Having heard that Elodie broke off the engagement with his brother because she liked him, Bertrand's lips practically curve up to the heavens. Seeing the look on Elodie's face, he mistakes it for shyness and moves closer step by step, even wanting to invite the heroine to dance. Elodie. At that moment, a deep, powerful voice calls her name from behind. "Are you two finished talking? I have something to discuss with my daughter, so I'll be taking her away. Come here, Elodie." The heroine never expected her father to come in person. Her father warns her. "The second prince is very dangerous. It's best for you to stay away from him." The heroine explains, "It was the second prince who took the initiative to speak to me. I was just casually humoring him." Her father adds coldly, "He's notorious for being untrustworthy. If he ever asks to meet you or contact you in private, just ignore him." The heroine can't help asking, "Father, are you worried about me?" Her father does not deny it. The heroine thinks she misheard and asks again to confirm. She still finds it a little hard to believe. Her father seems somewhat helpless, yet can only acknowledge it. So the heroine also tells her father one thing, which is to warn him to be careful. "Please be wary of your aide, Mr. Hector." 2 days have passed since the Emperor's birthday banquet ended. Martha comes to report, "The Duchess is summoning you." From the novel, the heroine knows that when Elodie was little, there was almost no one to look after her, except for the Duchess. The heroine arrives at the greenhouse and sees an excessively beautiful flower. She is just about to reach out and touch it when the Duchess grabs her in time. The Duchess calmly reminds her, "If you go a little further, your whole arm will be torn off." It is a man-eating flower called halcaria, which lures people close with its gorgeous appearance and hallucinogenic pollen, then devours them. The Duchess warns her, You'd better be careful. The Duchess then lets her try some iced tea she made herself. Right in front of the Duchess, the heroine drains the cup in one go without any hesitation. The Duchess is clearly surprised. She hadn't expected her to just drink it all like that, and frankly says, "Very few people dare to drink what I hand them so recklessly." The heroine thinks to herself that she might die 3 years from now anyway, so she's really not afraid. So as not to arouse suspicion, she can only say, "It's a bit hot today." The Duchess counters, "So your life isn't as important as the heat?" The heroine immediately changes her story. "Ah, it's because the tea smells so good." The Duchess coolly points out, "But this tea has no scent. Crap, if this goes on, she'll be suspected." The heroine quickly patches it up. "You and I are very good business partners. No one would poison a partner they're working with, right?" The Duchess seems to somewhat acknowledge this, but she immediately asks in return, "Is that alone enough of a reason for me not to put poison in your cup?" In the end, though, the Duchess still hopes she will form a habit from now on. Always stay wary of others. After that, the Duchess has her take this money and says that the detailed accounting records can be checked against the documents. Seeing the pile of gold coins, the heroine is so happy she nearly takes off on the spot. But before that, the Duchess wants to place an additional order for another batch of antidotes and, while she's at it, also by the manufacturing method. The heroine states that the method is a trade secret. The Duchess presses her for other ideas. "There are so many different kinds of poisons. Can those all have matching antidotes made as well?" The heroine replies that it's no problem, but the stronger the toxicity, the trickier it becomes, and the longer it will take. Because if you want to make an antidote, at the end of the day you have to drink the poison first. And possessing the purification authority does not mean she can't feel pain. The heroine then turns to ask the Duchess, "About what I asked you to keep secret last time." The Duchess tells her not to worry. "Since I agreed to you, I will keep my word. Aren't we partners?" The relationship between the two of them seems to soften bit by bit like this. On the way back, the heroine happens to run into her father in the middle of judging Hector. Hector is desperately begging for mercy, insisting that he has been framed. The Duke tells him to shut up. "I've already gathered evidence of your collusion with the second prince." The heroine just stands there quietly, eating melon seeds and watching the drama. But the next second, as if sensing something, she turns around wanting to leave. However, her father suddenly calls out to her. The heroine's heart sinks. It's over. Her father orders her to come with him for a talk. Back inside, her father coldly asks her, "How did you know Hector had betrayed us?" The heroine calmly answers, "Before His Majesty's birthday banquet, I happened to run into him in the corridor. At the time, Mr. Hector seemed to have a strange misunderstanding about me. He thought I liked the second prince." The moment her father hears the second prince, his anger bar shoots straight to max. The heroine tactfully explains, "I felt there was no need to go out of my way to correct his misconception, but then at the banquet the second prince really did approach me. So I reminded you and asked you to be careful." After listening to this story, her father barely believes it. So he decides to conduct a large-scale purge in the short term and has his daughter stay at an annex residence for the time being. Her father admits that in exposing the traitor this time, his daughter has great merit and may make one wish. The heroine does not hesitate. "Just lift my confinement." But her father sets one condition. He is apparently worried about his daughter's safety. Lifting the confinement means she will go out. So he requires that whenever she goes out, she must take either Asien or Carlotte with her. The heroine wants to go out alone, but her father firmly refuses. The reason is simple. The second prince might approach her, so the Duke has no choice but to resort to this. With no other option, the heroine can only pick this softer persimmon. The next day, the heroine goes to find her second brother Carl and asks him to be her escort for today's outing. The Tsundere Carl, of course, doesn't want to go out with his illegitimate little sister, much less serve as her escort. This is exactly what the heroine counted on, which makes things easier. She turns around and heads off to complain. In the end, Carl can't withstand their father's pressure and has no choice but to agree. But Carl never imagined that he would be shaken off by the heroine in just a little while. The heroine didn't choose Asien because Carl wears his heart right on his face. Carl's authority is a destructive power of ground collapse, which can extend from a small area to a fairly large one. This kind of power is very useful in large-scale war, though it lacks a stage in peacetime. But Carlotte is still quite satisfied with his own authority. On top of that, he has exceptional talent in swordsmanship. Even against decent adult knights, he may not necessarily lose. After that, the heroine brings Carl to a dessert shop because she wants to eat that shop's plop chocolate. Carl is very displeased. The place is packed with people. Whenever Carl refuses, the heroine simply brings up their father. Naturally, this move never fails her. Some young noble ladies attending a party see that Carl has actually come to buy sweets in person, and they immediately start chatting about this cute side of him. And the moment Carl utters the word plop, the ladies behind him practically explode. When Carl finishes buying and turns around to look for the heroine, the proprietress of the waiting room tells him, The young lady said she had somewhere to go. It's already been 2 hours. It turned out the heroine had already run off to the magic tower by herself. When the heroine told the magic tower receptionist that she was there to invest, he immediately treated her like an honored guest. The man in charge of receiving her enthusiastically introduced the magic tower's popular investment projects. But what the heroine truly wanted to invest in this time was a certain mage, namely the mage LB. The heroine understands why the man makes that kind of face, because LB is a mage with 0 achievements. But from the original novel, the heroine knows that before long the magical devices he invents will sell like crazy and earn an absurd fortune. The heroine quietly praises herself in her heart. Carefully reading the original really pays off. The man then takes out a magical contract and signals for her to sign. To be safe, the heroine does not reveal her real name, but instead gives herself an alias, Lily Arsel. Just as the heroine feels that everything is heading in a good direction, a man in a black suit is staring at her from within the crowd. Only then does the heroine react. But the man has already grabbed hold of her. The heroine realizes that this guy is outrageously handsome. In a low voice, the man says, "I've finally found you, Ichio." That was the name the heroine used before she transmigrated, and she is stunned on the spot. At that moment, Carl also catches up. The man leans close to the heroine's ear and whispers, "Before long, I'll come to you again." By the time the heroine turns her head, the man has already vanished. The heroine suspects that he might know something. She has a faint feeling that, although it was just a fleeting encounter, it somehow felt like they had known each other for a long time. Carl anxiously finds his sister, but the heroine acts extremely resistant. She coldly retorts, "Whatever I do, hasn't it always had nothing to do with you as my brother?" Carl is left standing there, stunned. When he was little, Carl heard from a maid that after his illegitimate sister came to the estate, his father and mother grew distant. So the young Carl came to hate his older sister like that, for no other reason than that she was an illegitimate child. He loathed her. The heroine thinks he's just afraid of their father, and so she says coolly, "I don't want to talk to you. Stop making a scene." The past rises up like a shadow. There's nothing to be done about it. In any case, the heroine's next step is to investigate who that man connected to her previous life really is. She remembers that he had black hair and red eyes and looked like some sort of noble. Elsewhere, the heroine's eldest brother Ashian has always had people watching his little sister's every move. He also knows about the heroine going to the magic tower, but he has no idea at all what she went there to do. As for that man, Ashian also says, "I've never seen him before." Ashian keenly senses that his little sister is like a different person. Not only did she expose the fact that their father's aide was secretly involved with the second prince, she also frequently has afternoon tea with their mother, with whom she had barely exchanged a word before. This makes Ashian wary. Just what kind of scheme is she playing at? Meanwhile, the heroine receives an invitation from the first prince and can only think, "Are you all taking turns to bother me?" The first prince's sudden visit catches the heroine somewhat off guard. Even though he has already been rejected several times, he has still shown up unannounced. The first prince explains, "I only came because I received an invitation from your family." The heroine looks like she has no idea about this. So the first prince says, "If your body can handle it, then come to the evening banquet with me." This sudden arrangement leaves the heroine a bit dazed for a moment. At dinner that very day, her father announces, the Angelos family is officially taking over the military supplies business. Ashian speculates that, as they have frequent dealings with the Southern Magic Tower, they must already have produced magical devices. It's said he also bought up all the magic stone mines that can be used as supplementary material for magical armor. Angelos is one of the 4 great families, the ducal house of Angelos, that has been granted the authority of regeneration. And the head of the house, Rod, is a man obsessed with boosting the family's prestige and wealth. He has only one goal: to suppress all other families and make Angelos #1, and his greatest rival is precisely the House of Pedia. Her father believes they won't cause any major trouble in the short term, but in the long run there will be issues with raw material supplies. The Duchess suggests, "We could buy some magic stone mines, buy more." The first prince, however, thinks, Angelos has already swallowed up most of the mines, so moving now won't mean much. What none of them know is that the Angelos family will ultimately fall into decline, and in the end this will instead complete the victory legend of the ever-victorious Pedia. Though things will be tough for a while, Ashian will eventually resolve it all. What the heroine does not expect is that her father actually asks her to give her opinion as well. Ashian thinks this question is too difficult for his little sister, but he is sharply scolded by their father. "Don't interrupt." Ashian immediately shuts his mouth and doesn't dare speak again. The heroine knows she can't dodge this, so she can only take out Ashian's countermeasure and use it to deal with her father. She feels guilty, but survival is more important. So the heroine proposes, Angelos has bought up and monopolized all the mines within the empire. But even for Angelos, this approach must put a serious strain on their finances. So we should monopolize as well. Carl objects on the spot. "Didn't you hear? Weren't we just told that most of the mines have already been bought by Angelos?" But the heroine says, "We don't need magic stone mines. The materials needed for military supplies aren't just magic stones. We only need to buy up all the other materials. Angelos has only just entered the military supplies business, so they definitely don't have many partners yet for those other materials. As time goes on, they'll reach out to Pedia sooner or later. When that happens, we can just sell the materials back to them at a high price. Her father nods in satisfaction. The Duchess also praises the heroine's proposal. The heroine feels a little guilty, yet also thrilled. She never thought she'd get to play the intellectual in this life. The first prince at her side also hadn't expected her to be so invested in business. But this only confuses the prince even more. She's practically a different person. Combined with the suspicious bottles he saw in her room, and her delicate status in the House of Pedia, the prince just can't figure out what she is really hiding. After that, Rod learned he had been played by Pedia and, in the end, could only grit his teeth and accept defeat. Rod asked his butler, "The one who came up with this idea must have been Ashian, right?" The butler hesitated for a moment before reporting to his lord. According to the information from the agent planted in House Pedia, it wasn't Ashian. It was the Duke of Pedia's youngest daughter, Elodie, who proposed the idea. This made Rod resolve that he had to start preparing to get rid of this girl. Afterward, her father specially called his daughter to the office, saying he wanted to reward her and telling her not to be nervous. The heroine only said, "It was just good luck." She understands that if she hadn't answered that time, she would only have disappointed the Duke. In the heroine's eyes, her father has always been indifferent, so she can't help asking him something. Back then, "Why did you ask for my opinion? Don't you not care about me?" Her father immediately explains, "Because I knew that you, as you are now, could solve it." Her father says that she really has been different lately. He just hasn't shown it. That doesn't mean he doesn't care. "You know I don't give off a friendly impression. I was afraid I'd make you cry when you were little, so I didn't get close to you. But I've always been watching you, Elodie." Her father tells his daughter to come closer. The heroine knows full well her true identity, that she isn't even an illegitimate child, and she thinks that once he finds out the truth, he will kill her without hesitation. Her father asks her, "Say what you want." But the heroine says, "I want father to praise me." So her father places his large hand on her head. "You did very well." This one sentence makes the heroine recall that he praised her once when she was a child. When the heroine comes out of her father's office, she deliberately ignores Carl. Carl is furious, grabs her hand hard, and demands to know why she's ignoring him. But that kind of move from Carl instantly annoys the heroine as well. Only then does Carl notice that his sister seems to have been crying. The heroine only throws him one line, "Mind your own business." Carl protests, "You think I want to worry about you? If weird rumors spread about our family, are you going to take responsibility?" In the end, Carl also warns her, "Don't run around tonight. Stay quietly in your room." Only then does the heroine suddenly remember, tonight is the night of the lunar eclipse, the day every 3 years when the moon is swallowed by darkness, and also the day Ashian loses control. On nights without light, the power of the underworld goddess grows stronger. The 4 great families and the royal bloodline all struggle to control their authorities and will lose control one after another. When Carl lost control 3 years ago, the heroine witnessed his power with her own eyes. Although Ashian is better at suppressing himself, he still can't completely control it every time. Lunar eclipse nights are always like this. He hides alone in the courtyard, enduring the pain by himself. 6 years ago, when the heroine first accidentally stepped into the courtyard, she stumbled upon Ashian suffering alone. But with one harsh shout, Ashian scared her away. This time, however, the heroine knows he will come again, so she goes to find him on purpose. According to the original novel, once the sunny heroine appears, she will soothe Ashian and max out his affection. But this time the heroine decides to snatch Ashian first. The heroine gently places her hand on her brother's back, as if to soothe him. Ashian, however, sharply orders her to get lost, and then faints. But the heroine has no intention of leaving just like that. When Ashian opens his eyes again, he finds that the one keeping watch by his side is actually Elodie. The heroine is startled. "Don't tell me he's lost his memory?" She hurriedly explains in a panic, "I saw you collapsed on the path. Are you all right?" Once he recovers, Ashian only says calmly, "I'm fine." The heroine quietly steps back and turns to leave. Only then does Ashian realize that the little girl who accidentally intruded into the courtyard 6 years ago was actually Elodie. After the night of the lunar eclipse, everyone returns to their everyday lives as if nothing had happened. Yet there is one person who just won't stop hanging around the heroine these past few days. The heroine can't figure it out. What on earth is he up to? The heroine asks her brother, "Don't you have anything better to do?" Ashian instead sighs, "My little sister really is so warm." The heroine pushes him away, telling him to hurry up and go to work. Ashian insists she's just being stubborn. "You're obviously worried about me." The heroine knows he is only testing her like this, so Ashian tells her to hold out her hand. The heroine is completely confused. "Why do you suddenly want my hand?" Before she can react, Ashian grabs her hand and uses magic power to scan the heroine. Just as Ashian seems about to do something more, Carl appears and asks what they are doing. Carl then tells her, "Mother is calling for you." The heroine replies to Carl, "Next time, just have a servant pass on the message." And she warns the two of them, "Stop coming to bother me." The Duchess gets straight to the point. How are the antidotes for the 12 poisons coming along? Hearing 12 poisons, the heroine feels like the sky is collapsing. The heroine stammers that she seems to be missing a bottle, saying that she accidentally knocked one over while cleaning, her face full of guilt. But the Duchess calmly says there's no need to worry. Even if someone steals the poison from Housepedia, if they don't know what it is and only take it because it seems valuable, they'll pay the price. Either they'll die on the spot from taking it by mistake, or they'll try to sell it on the black market, only to be found out and thrown into prison. The heroine never expected that someone with such beauty could speak such frightening words so lightly. What she expected even less was that the one who took that bottle of poison turned out to be the first prince. The first prince's side has it analyzed and discovers that the bottle actually contains poison. He concludes that in the Duke of Pedia's household, aside from the Duchess, no one could create such a vicious poison. For a moment, the first prince suspects that the Duchess wants to assassinate the Duke's daughter, but that doesn't quite make sense. Just then, the first prince seems to realize something. On the other side, the heroine once again goes out together with Carl, with the magic tower as their destination, just like before. But in truth, the heroine doesn't want to travel with Carl at all. Suddenly, the carriage jolts violently. Carl becomes alert at once and tells the heroine to stay inside and not come out. The clash of blades outside continues without stopping, and a trace of fear rises in the heroine's heart. After a long time, Carl still hasn't returned, and the heroine starts to feel uneasy. She pushes open the carriage door and discovers Carl already injured and lying on the ground. Just as the assassin is about to deliver the finishing blow, the heroine throws out a bottle of poison. The heroine immediately helps Carl up. Her poison can only buy time. It isn't lethal, so the heroine drags Carl along and runs for their lives with all her might. When the heroine looks back, she sees the assassin pursuing them at terrifying speed. Ahead is a cliff, and behind are the pursuers. Carl positions himself in front of the heroine. As Carl fights the assassin, a flying sword suddenly shoots toward the heroine. She narrowly dodges it, but behind her is a bottomless cliff. At the very moment Carl rushes over to grab her, the heroine recalls that childhood memory between her and Carl, and she pulls her hand back. This scene stuns Carl. He never imagined that she would rather die than take his hand. The heroine also didn't expect that, in the end, she would still die in such a hollow way. Just then, the man who knows of the heroine's previous life appears and saves her. Elsewhere, the Duke of Pedia learns that his daughter has fallen off a cliff and immediately orders his subordinates, no matter what it takes, find any trace and report back at once. The heroine thinks she is doomed this time, yet the man successfully rescues her. The heroine can't tell whether he is friend or foe. She only wants to go back right now. But the moment she pushes the door open, their eyes meet. The man speaks, "You're hurt. Can you treat me first?" The heroine has no choice but to put treating his wounds as the top priority. She cautiously asks him, "Are you a mage, or part of the royal family, or the 4 great houses?" The man denies it. None of the above. The heroine thinks, how can someone not be any of those and still be this handsome? Blushing awkwardly, she asks, "Then what's your name?" The man tells her to call him Ryan. The heroine presses further, "When you saved me, why did you call me Ichio?" Ryan explains that he keeps having the same dream, dreaming of a world completely different from this one, in which the name Ichio keeps appearing. He insists, "I recognized you at a glance. You're the Ichio from my dreams." The heroine thinks, this man doesn't even know how to lie properly. But since Ryan never appeared in the original novel at all, she suspects he is hiding his real name. In any case, the heroine judges that, for now, he poses no threat to her. The most important thing at the moment is to get a clear grasp of the situation. Ryan tells her that the Duke of Pedia has already dispatched large numbers of people to search. The heroine instead freezes, "I thought they'd be happy if that nuisance got into trouble. I didn't expect them to care about me this much." So the heroine asks Ryan to take her back to the ducal estate. As soon as the heroine returns home, she is surrounded so tightly, there's no room to move. She can hardly believe how many people are crammed into her room. The Duchess nervously asks, "If you feel uncomfortable anywhere, speak up immediately." The heroine guiltily admits, "I used up all those gifts you gave me." The Duchess only says she made a wise choice and that she'll make more for her later. The Duke tells her to rest well for a few days and preferably not go out, then leaves. But one person remains in the room, Carl. Carl can't understand. "Why did you let go? Were you trying to die?" The heroine fires back, "What? Are you disappointed I didn't?" Carl hastily denies it. "That's not what I meant." The heroine snaps, "I don't have the energy to argue with you today." The next second, Carl suddenly hugs the heroine. The heroine has never seen this kind of Carl before. Carl leans against her, muttering softly, I was really worried about you. Only then does the heroine realize that Carl is crying. She can't understand why he's like this. Carl apologizes to the heroine. All this time I've been talking nonsense, ignoring you, calling you an illegitimate child, always picking on you. It was all my fault. Please don't hate me. The heroine is stunned. Have I ever said anything like that to you? Carl looks at her, utterly aggrieved. Instead, the heroine brings up an old score. Didn't you used to say I was dirty and shouldn't touch you? Carl hugs her even tighter, his voice muffled. You're not dirty at all. He even swears. I'll protect you. I'll be my little sister's dog. The heroine's entire worldview is crushed on the spot. After learning that Ryan was in her father's office, the heroine happily ran over. Her father glared darkly at his daughter. You've only met for a day, and you're already this familiar? The heroine hurried to explain. Ryan is my savior. Her father said he already knew what had happened, so he was in the middle of paying him. But Ryan said, I'm the one who saved her, so I want to receive my reward for Miss Elodie. The heroine asked in confusion. What do you want? Ryan formally introduced himself. I am Ryan, leader of the Sky Eagles. Please hire me, my lady. In other words, he is Ryan, the mercenary king, who rendered great service in the war against the kingdom of Nelt 2 years ago, gained the emperor's recognition, and is not someone even nobles dare treat lightly. Though he is a commoner, he is quite famous among the nobility as well. The heroine couldn't understand. Why choose me of all people? Ryan explained. The second prince wants to make contact with me. The heroine's heart tightened. Has the second prince already begun maneuvering for the throne? That only makes it more necessary for her to hire Ryan. Doing so would both block the second prince's approach and keep Carl from having to be her escort anymore, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The heroine regards Ryan as a variable, which only makes her more eager to keep him close and watch him. Just as she is about to agree readily, her father steps in to stop it, fixing his gaze on his daughter as he asks, can that man really be trusted? The heroine calmly analyzes. If the Sky Eagles become more tightly bound to Housepedia, the first prince's influence outside will also grow. In the end, her father agrees to the heroine's choice and has them sign a contract. After that, her 2 brothers come to find her and ask whom she plans to attend the upcoming royal banquet with this time. The heroine answers straightforwardly, I'm not choosing either of you. I'm choosing Ryan. Both brothers' faces go dark on the spot, and they practically want to get rid of Ryan right away. Ashian stares at her and asks, Mercenary King Ryan. You knew him from before? The heroine replies crisply, I ran into him on the road. That's all. Ashian's tone grows more serious. Then how much do you know about him? It's not good to get too close to that guy. The heroine's heart sinks. So he really does know something. Ashian is the most deep-minded person in the family. He must have information on Ryan in his hands. There's no way he'd tell me not to approach him for no reason. She is about to hear him continue, but Ashian only says, there's no particular reason. At the same time, however, his hand keeps touching the heroine's hand. The heroine snaps, annoyed. What on earth are you doing? Ashian replies dead serious. My little sister just survived a great ordeal. An older brother can only feel at ease by holding on to her. Not to be outdone, Carl reaches out and tries to grab his sister's hand as well. The heroine finds this so absurd, she can't even comprehend it. Elsewhere, the Empress of the Walentia Empire is chatting and laughing with Lady Dorothea at the banquet. Dorothea Angelos is the only daughter of the Duke of Angelos, a true noble princess of exalted birth. Although it hasn't been publicly announced, because the Duke of Angelos is backing the second prince as the next emperor. Empress Selvasolite has close ties with the Angelos family. Dorothea is certain that she will be the main star of this banquet, but soon, her spotlight will be stolen by the heroine. She notices that the mercenary king Ryan has never appeared at any imperial functions before, yet now he is standing with the ruffians of Housepedia, which makes Dorothea instantly burn with jealousy. What angers her even more is that the entire Duke of Pedia's family has shown up in full, shredding to pieces right then and there all the rumors about discord in Housepedia. In Dorothea's eyes, the star of the banquet, the center of social attention, the social butterfly, the heroine effortlessly takes everything she wanted, and so Dorothea begins to hate the heroine. Meanwhile, the first prince has just finished his work. His secretary reports, Lady Elodie has appeared in full dress at the Empress's banquet. The first prince frowns. Who did she go with? The secretary answers, apparently with an unfamiliar man. Upon hearing this, the first prince immediately throws on his cloak and heads straight for the banquet. At the banquet, the heroine is hemmed in by her 2 brothers, who insist on dragging her off to dance. If not for the Duchess stepping in to stop them in time, the heroine would have died of embarrassment on the spot. Other nobles whisper among themselves, since when did the Duke's family get along so well? Even the heroine herself starts to question reality. What on earth is going on with our family? What follows is that inexplicable sense of inferiority within the heroine. The Duke of Pedia, one of the 4 great family's power holders, the Duchess, one of the continent's foremost poison makers, plus 2 sons who have inherited authority. Everyone wants to curry favor with Housepedia and envies them as a perfect family. Yet stuck in the middle, the heroine is slowly becoming an anomaly, a flaw, a defect, an ugly duckling. Sensing that something is off with her, Ryan quietly asks, "Are you feeling unwell?" But the heroine finds him too handsome and only feels increasingly awkward. So, as not to be found out, she brushes it off with some casual excuse. From a distance, the first prince stands quietly watching them. After the ball, the heroine and Ryan find a quiet corner to talk alone. But of course, there's always someone who loves to cut in. Dorothea is very interested in the Ryan at the heroine's side and asks for an introduction. The moment she hears that he is the famous mercenary King Ryan, she turns into an instant fangirl. Dorothea smiles and says, "Instead of hiding in a corner with Lady Elodie, why not come over there and talk with me?" But Ryan rejects her bluntly and without hesitation. Dorothea never expected Ryan to be a man of iron walls, so she immediately uses a charm spell, putting on the act of a frail little white flower. Seeing the slightest reaction from Ryan, she intensifies her act, even saying she wants to properly repay him. But not only does Ryan ignore her, he even takes out a handkerchief and slowly wipes his hand. This humiliation leaves Dorothea so embarrassed she trembles, and she curses Ryan as a rude idiot before storming off. She never imagined that a commoner would dare humiliate a noble lady. The heroine worries that Ryan will be retaliated against. After all, Dorothea's methods are both stupid and vicious. So the heroine says to Ryan, "Whatever happens, I'll protect you." With Housepedia's power, even if Lady Angelos has a family backing her, she won't dare act recklessly. Feeling that it's getting late, the heroine is about to head back when the first prince, who has been waiting outside the door, stops her, his tone mocking, "Surely you're not planning to abandon your fiancé and go home alone?" The heroine explains, "At this kind of banquet, it's normal to leave after a while." She is even more puzzled as to why the first prince came. He usually avoids the Empress's banquets. The first prince coldly asks, "Who's that man with you?" Ryan gives the first prince a formal self-introduction. Once the first prince learns that he is Ryan, he says, "I heard Bertrand mention wanting to recruit you under his command." But Ryan clearly wasn't interested. The first prince coolly warns, "Then keep it that way." What the first prince never expected was that Ryan would end up as Elodie's bodyguard. And a duke's daughter ditching her fiancé to attend a banquet with another man is bound to become noble gossip. From the first prince's point of view, that is actually a good thing. Yet watching them stand together, the first prince feels inexplicably irritated. He can't help asking Elodie, "Is he the man you mentioned before?" Because Elodie once told him that she was in love with someone. That was just a lie the heroine made up on the spot. The heroine counters, "And if I say yes, what will you do?" The first prince looks indifferent. "Nothing at all. Go home." From the start, what the first prince coveted was only Housepedia's backing. As for whom Elodie liked, he didn't care. But at this very moment, the first prince secretly makes up his mind. No matter what happens, he will never break off the engagement. At this moment, the humiliated Dorothea returned home and vented her emotions like crazy, convinced that not only had Elodie reduced her to a supporting role, she had also caused her to suffer that level of humiliation. Seeing her daughter come back with such an ugly expression, her mother asked, "Were you wronged at the banquet?" Dorothea threw herself into her mother's arms, crying that Elodie's lowly little guard had ignored her, and that this guard was actually the mercenary King Ryan. When her mother heard leader of the Sky Eagles, mercenary King, she clearly hesitated for a moment, but the thought of her daughter being humiliated like that stirred her protective instincts at once. Who cares whether he's some king of mercenaries? If he dares bully my precious daughter, he won't get off lightly. Lady Angelos personally paid a visit, and the Duchess received her politely, asking the purpose of her call. Lady Angelos sneered, "You know perfectly well. I notified you days ago, and more than once received no reply. It seems you really are busy." The Duchess calmly replied that any unimportant letters would be handled by the butler on her behalf. Then the Duchess countered with a jab of her own, thorns hidden in her words. "Lady Angelos must also be very busy, no? Your complexion is looking much older. Do take better care of yourself in the future." In Dorothea's view, the reason the Duke does not show his age is that, in addition to his authority, his swordsmanship has reached a high realm. But the Duchess clearly has none of that. How does she stay so young? To change the subject, Dorothea hurriedly spoke first. "We've come this time to have Lady Elodie apologize." Lady Angelos followed up with a sigh. To have guests in the house yet still not show herself for so long. How ill-mannered. Arriving late, the heroine didn't argue, but instead admitted fault first. "If I'd known you were coming, I would certainly have come on time." In truth, even without Elodie saying a word, the Duchess had already guessed their objective. So the heroine lays things out directly. "You were the one who approached my guard, and you said you felt dizzy and asked him to hold your hand. Is that what you're talking about?" Dorothea gritted her teeth. After that, He even wiped the hand that had touched me and then threw the handkerchief away right in front of me, as if I were filthy. So she demanded, "As his employer, you should acknowledge your mistake." At that moment, the heroine single, "I'm sorry," slams the mood to a halt. Mother and daughter both freeze, thinking they must have misheard. Seeing them speechless, the heroine continues, "Since there was a misunderstanding, as his employer, it's true that I should apologize to you both." The two of them are completely dumbfounded. They never imagined that the once ruffian Elodie would actually apologize of her own accord. Dorothea has nothing to say and can only grit her teeth and accept it. Seeing the matter settled, the Duchess indicates that they may now have tea. Of course, Lady Angelos knows how skilled the Duchess is with poison, so her first reaction is suspicion. She must have poisoned it. But the Duchess simply says, "There's no need to worry. Drink with peace of mind." The heroine hastily adds another layer of reassurance. "This tea was brewed personally by Mother. The taste and aroma are both first-rate. You can drink it without worry." Holding a might-as-well-try attitude, the mother and daughter still pick up their cups and take a sip. Seeing that they are fine for the moment, the heroine smiles and says, "How could Mother poison anyone? Poisoning guests who come calling would be far too obvious." But in Lady Angelos's eyes, their personalities are exactly the same, enough that calling them real mother and daughter wouldn't be an exaggeration. Knowing full well that Elodie is not the Duchess's biological daughter, Lady Angelos makes a snide remark. "It must be exhausting to have no choice but to raise an illegitimate girl as your own." The Duchess's expression doesn't change, but to protect Elodie's dignity, she fires back at once. "Elodie is my daughter. Of course she's like me." Seeing they can gain no advantage, the Angelos' mother and daughter can only slink away. The heroine never expected the Duchess to say those words. Only then does the Duchess take out a bottle of antidote and tell Elodie to drink it soon. The heroine is stunned. "Mother, you really did poison the tea?" The Duchess explains, "This poison isn't lethal, but it's enough to keep them from going out for a while." Frightened by her mother's sharp methods, the heroine turns and bolts. Watching her retreating back, the Duchess instead feels, "My daughter really is adorable." The Duchess recalls how, when she was little, the moment she reached out a hand, the girl would tremble like a frightened puppy. So the Duchess deliberately kept her distance. But that time when the heroine greeted her of her own accord, then took the initiative to make an antidote, and even took the initiative to call her mother, all of it made the Duchess feel for the first time. So this is what being close is like. At the same time, the moment the Duke of Angelos saw his wife's expression, he immediately told her to look in the mirror. Only then did Lady Angelos realize that her face was covered in black spots. When Dorothea discovered her own disfigurement, she let out a piercing scream. Not long after, rumors began to spread. The social butterfly Dorothea Angelos has shut herself in. What on earth happened? Carl suddenly came looking for the heroine. The heroine frowned. "Didn't I tell you not to come here anymore?" Carl looked utterly wronged. "I'll just sit beside you. I promise I won't get in your way." Right then, Carl's stomach betrayed him, growling loudly. The heroine had no choice but to let him fill his stomach first. While they were eating, Carl asked, "Why are there so few people at this annex?" The heroine replied calmly, "The reason is simple. No one wants to get involved with a bad-tempered, illegitimate girl. Here, it seems that only Martha can walk around freely without minding my mood." Carl felt a bit guilty, but the heroine didn't care. Taking advantage of the pause, Carl reported that after he and his brother investigated, they found that the people who attacked them last time showed signs of mana poisoning. Mages generally have mana affinity, so they are basically unaffected. But if ordinary people are exposed to mana over a long period, they develop mana poisoning. This shows that the attackers are connected to a magic tower. Coincidentally, the assault took place at the crossroads leading to the blue magic tower. The heroine also realizes that their target wasn't Carl but herself. They wanted to profit off her. The heroine immediately decides to go to the magic tower and get to the bottom of it. The magic towers are divided into east, west, south, and north branches, each strongly independent. Though they are all called magic towers, they are a group that is hard to unify. On the way, the heroine stops by the western magic tower because she happens to have business there as well. As for why she brings Ryan along, it's because he is not only her savior, but also the only person who knows her secret. Ordinarily, having someone know your secret would make you uneasy, yet the heroine feels at ease instead. So she asks Ryan, "Does your mercenary company take commission requests?" The heroine tells Ryan, "I want to find a woman named Estelle." Giving that name is actually a way of testing Ryan, but from his expression it's clear he's different from her. He's not someone who came out of the book, because anyone who had read the original would never not know Estelle. The heroine tells Ryan to keep an eye out for this girl. Brown hair and bright green eyes. The original gave no further information, which is why the heroine asks Ryan to search. This time at the magic tower, sure enough, the heroine has come to invest again. When the tower staff verify the investor's identity, they discover that the person before them is the famous Lily Arsel. But the heroine doesn't care in the slightest. turning on her heel and leaving with great nonchalance. She sees Ryan talking with some people from the tower and assumes Ryan is familiar with them, but Ryan tells her, "They're asking me about someone named Lily Arsel." Only then does the heroine realize that the person the magic tower is looking for is her. In the next second, her identity is exposed, and the tower folk crowd around her. Ryan immediately draws his sword and stands in front. They rush to explain, "We mean no harm. We only wish to ask Miss Lily Arsel to come with us, because the master of the magic tower is looking for you." The moment she sees the tower master, the heroine can't help blurting out, "The tower master is actually just a snot-nosed brat." The tower master's face goes dark on the spot. How rude. He then raises a hand and states his identity. "I am Aces, master of the Western Magic Tower." The heroine asks directly, "What do you want with me?" Aces fixes his gaze on her. "You invested in the mage LB. Why did you choose him?" Since the heroine has read the script, she answers naturally and crisply, "Because I believe he'll do well." Aces judges that she has a good eye and says she will have a bright future. The heroine shoots back, "Why are you using the identity of LB to work as a mage?" Aces admits, "If I used my real name, things would obviously sell like crazy. But my goal is to create truly useful magical tools, the kind of magical tools that everyone can acknowledge." After hearing this, the heroine only wants to give him an extra push. She suggests he try heating a magical tool until it's nicely warm, then tucking it into a bed and pulling the covers over it. It will become super cozy. Conversely, if you put a cold, magical tool into a box, then even in summer it can keep food fresh and chilled. It could even be used directly as military equipment. Aces is completely won over by the heroine's creativity and thought process and immediately asks her to be his assistant, but she refuses without hesitation. No matter how generous the conditions the Tower Master offers, the heroine remains unmoved. With no choice, the Tower Master takes a step back and says he hopes she'll come often in the future to give him suggestions for magical tools that at least the heroine feels she can consider. Her smug little expression is seen in full by Ryan from beginning to end. Suddenly, Aces pulls out a crystal emitting a purple glow. The heroine asks what it's for. Aces answers bluntly, "I invented it for the sake of toppling the Pedia family." Only then does the heroine realize the Tower Master is actually on the opposing side of her father. Once she calms down, the heroine asks why he's targeting the Duke of Pedia. Aces' eyes turn cold. "I hate him to the bone, and I want to steal what belongs to him." But the heroine notices that this part never appeared in the original. Aces then adds, "There's another main reason I called you here this time. It's because your name is very similar to someone I know. Her name is Arcelria." That is precisely the name of Elodie's biological mother, and the heroine tells him so on the spot. Aces is stunned. "You're actually that woman's daughter?" The heroine decides to stop going in circles and tacitly acknowledges her current identity, then presses him. "What exactly was your relationship with my mother?" Aces answers softly, "She was my benefactor, and the reason I stayed alive." The heroine has almost no memory of her biological mother. Before reclaiming her past life memories, she had never seen her. Even after recovering those memories, she still can't recall any clues about Elodie's birth mother. After all, Estelle is the protagonist. The villain's biological mother had no need to leave many details in the original story. Aces never expected that she hadn't even seen what her own mother looked like, so he offers to help her. He tells her to wait a while longer. "Later I'll use a memory projection device and let you see your mother's face." The heroine herself can't say exactly why she cares so much about Elodie's mother. Maybe she wants to see her for her own sake. Maybe she wants to find the mother for the real Elodie, but in any case, she is Elodie now and she wants to see her. When father learns that Elodie has met the master of the magic tower, he immediately asks, "What did you talk about?" The heroine knows full well that she absolutely cannot mention the investment or the mother matter. So she picks something she can say. "Aces said you're a playboy who fools around outside." Pedia is stunned. He actually dares spout that kind of crap? Father presses her. "Other than that, what else did he say?" The heroine continues relaying. "He said he's making a secret magical tool to bring you down, and that there's something he wants to steal." Pedia understands at once. What he wants to steal is Pedia's heirloom treasure. Father strictly orders her to stay away from that guy from now on, and also instructs her to tidy up the annex and move back into the main residence. Even though their relationship seems to have softened, the heroine still feels she cannot obtain their love, because she is, at her core, a stranger in this world. So she refuses her father's kind offer. The next day, the heroine has Ryan take her to visit the mercenary company. Ryan says they have many empty rooms at their headquarters. As the two of them walk into the interior of the mercenary base, Ryan's men, seeing their captain return, immediately want to come over and chat. One of them even sighs that the captain really has it tough, since the woman he's guarding is no ordinary one. Not only did she yank someone's hair at a banquet, her nickname is the Ruffian of House Pedia. Ryan cuts him off on the spot. "Shut up." The man is left baffled. Why did the captain suddenly get angry? The heroine calmly joins in. "I'm the one you're talking about. the Lady Pedia who pulled someone's hair at the banquet. So his fate, needless to say, is sealed. Ryan takes the initiative to apologize to her. It was my failure for not managing my men properly. The heroine isn't angry. On the contrary, she's surprised that Ryan would take something like this to heart. So she tells him, I don't care about that. But Ryan is different. He cares a lot. After this little episode, the heroine can't help starting to doubt whether she should keep accepting Ryan's kindness. From the very first time they met, Ryan has never once shown hostility toward her. He has always been the one-sided helper, staying by her side whenever she is in danger. He accompanies her without hesitation. That kindness is clear, clean, and pure. The heroine can't understand. Why is Ryan so good to her? Just because he saw her previous life? So she decides to find out exactly what Ryan wants from her. A few days later, Carl goes to complain to his older brother that ever since Ryan appeared, Elodie no longer lets him act as her guard. He's also noticed that she's been looking in very poor condition lately. Ashian has sensed it too. According to the reports from the watchers he arranged, Elodie goes shopping on Tuvanet Street every morning with the mercenary king, then heads to the Sky Eagle's headquarters and does this almost every day. It's said that whenever she returns home in the evening, her face is always very pale. Ashian wants to know where Elodie is going and what she's doing there. There also seems to be some sort of deal going on between her and their mother. But when it comes to their mother, Ashian doesn't even dare investigate too deeply. Seeing his brother lost in thought, Carl feels even more annoyed. Ashian, however, can't help wondering, didn't you always want to take a bite out of Elodie? And now you're feeling guilty because you couldn't protect her? Carl mutters that he's only just woken up to things. He played pranks on her when they were little, so now he wants to make up for it. He wants Elodie to forgive him. Meanwhile, in the Imperial Palace, the Emperor summons the First Prince and orders him to dissolve his engagement with Elodie. The First Prince is shocked. Why is father suddenly breaking off the engagement? The emperor explains that back when the Dowager Empress died, the Empress and Second Prince were both strongly supported by the nobles, so at that time he needed Pedia to hold the situation. But now it seems that Pedia is a power neither you nor I can control. So the emperor wants the First Prince to choose the more manageable Angelo's family instead. The First Prince reminds his father that Angelo's has already taken the Second Prince's side, but the emperor replies coldly that as long as there's profit to be made, Angelo's will do it. The First Prince can only say, through gritted teeth, that he'll give it serious thought. Just then, the Empress enters and breaks the tension between father and son. She reminds the prince that it's time for His Majesty's medicine. But no one expects that the Empress does not have the Emperor's best interests at heart. Elsewhere, Elodie is spending more and more time at the mercenary company. The heroine realizes that Ryan and his people still haven't found any trace of Estelle. She recalls the original story. Most of Estelle's tale takes place in Walentia's capital, Naga. As long as they investigate the area around Naga, they should be able to pinpoint her. But before that, the heroine decides to start brewing antidotes. Meanwhile, the Duchess brushes past the mercenary company's attempts to stop her and insists on seeing Elodie. She cannot understand what on earth Elodie has been thinking lately, and combined with her son saying Elodie doesn't look well, she grows even more worried. The moment the Duchess opens Elodie's door, the room is thick with the smell of poisonous drugs. Ryan only has to inhale a little to feel unwell at once. The Duchess vaguely realizes that the secret Elodie has been hiding all along is probably here. When the heroine wakes up and opens her eyes that night, she finds her mother at her bedside. Looking at her face, the Duchess speaks heavily. You look terrible and very weak. The Duchess asks directly, do you have to take poison first in order to create an antidote? So that's why you're holed up here drinking poison, isn't it? Filled with guilt, the Duchess never knew that Elodie was doing something so dangerous, and she decides to cancel her collaboration with Elodie. The heroine hurriedly protests, but don't you need a capable alchemist? The Duchess admits she does, but more than that, she doesn't want to watch her child drinking poison. The Duchess presses Elodie in confusion. Why do you have to go this far? Why do you need money so badly? With no other choice, the heroine explains her original idea to leave the house and become independent. Though shocked, the Duchess immediately starts thinking back. When did Elodie start having that thought? Maybe it was from the first time she earnestly approached me of her own accord. The Duchess never expected that she had already planned everything. She tells Elodie, I don't oppose your becoming independent. After all, you've grown up and should have your own ideas. Maybe you feel we've put pressure on you and made you uncomfortable, but from now on, I'll work hard to create an environment where you can relax. At this moment, the heroine still doesn't realize how serious things are. First, she has completely lost her job. Second, if her identity is ever exposed, she will go from prodigy to fallen star. Worse still, Carl suddenly appears and nearly scares Elodie half to death. The heroine explodes on the spot. What are you doing here? Carl says he's come to tell her that the whole family will be dining together tonight, and Mother has suggested they eat out. After that, the whole family wore smiles. but the heroine just couldn't feel happy no matter what. By coincidence, the Duke of Angelos also happened to see Pedia out dining with his family and couldn't help remarking that he was surprisingly family-minded. Smiling, the Duchess teased him. "Duke Angelos, your wife hasn't been seen for so long. Has she perhaps caught some contagious disease?" But the heroine noticed that the person standing behind the Duke of Angelos seemed to be a mage. Moreover, he deliberately avoided meeting her gaze, which made the heroine feel something was very wrong. She couldn't figure out why the Duke of Angelos was treating that mage with near humility. This posture was completely unlike his usual style and struck her as bizarre. Meanwhile, when Dorothea heard that Elodie could freely come and go to various places, she was so furious she lost control, her delicate face twisting with rage. Just then, the door was flung open and her father walked in. Hope flared instantly in Dorothea's eyes and she threw herself into his arms. Her voice shook with urgency. "Father, have you found an alchemist yet? The invitation for the Ishtar Temple meeting day has already arrived. How am I supposed to attend looking like this?" The Duke soothed her, telling her not to worry. He had already found a powerful mage for her. Elsewhere, the heroine strode quickly toward Ryan's lodgings, utterly vexed. Because the Duchess had forbidden her from continuing their business, she was now penniless. After listening to her complaints, Ryan's expression hardly changed. He only said mildly, "If you're short of money, I'll give it to you, as much as you want." This completely unguarded generosity and goodwill left the heroine stunned on the spot, at a total loss for how to respond. In her view, there is no such thing as a free lunch. Ryan's behavior had to mean he had ulterior motives. Their conversation was heard loud and clear by Mario outside the door, who immediately barged in and cut Ryan off. Turning to Elodie, Mario addressed her respectfully. "Miss Elodie, have you come to give us a commission?" The heroine snapped back to herself and said she wanted him to investigate someone, a man with dark green hair and deep violet eyes. Seeing the two getting along better and better, Ryan's expression darkened at once. He forcibly interrupted their conversation. "I have a way to make big money that might be able to help you." Mario frowned immediately and objected. "This needs careful thought. You can't decide on impulse. You have to consider the safety of the company." That remark was like fuel on the fire. Ryan's gaze turned so cold it was frightening, and his tone brooked no refusal. "Get out, now." Knowing all too well his captain's temper, Mario didn't dare say another word and bolted, afraid that even a moment's delay would doom him. Once Mario was gone, Ryan's tone toward Elodie softened in an instant, as if he were a different person. He said quietly, "Not long ago, a certain item went up for sale at a black market auction. It might help you get out of your predicament." Hearing this, the heroine fell into thought. The black market is full of all sorts of people. If her father learned she'd gone there, the consequences would be unimaginable and only invite more trouble. Seeing through her concern, Ryan said she could go under a false identity. With so many people and so much chaos there, no one would care about her background. Faced with a chance to make money, the heroine really found it hard to refuse. Ryan added that in exactly a week it would be Ishtar Temple meeting day. The heroine understood at once. Ishtar Temple meeting day is when the heads, wives, and legitimate children of the 4 great families, including the royal family, gather together. But since childhood, such invitations had never once been delivered to her. A week passed in the blink of an eye, and as expected, the heroine received no invitation. What she didn't expect was that the Duke and Duchess would transfer almost all the servants from the estate to her annex, making it clear they didn't trust her at all. Before leaving, the Duke reminded her, "Elodie, you're to rest at home these days and not run around." Outwardly, the heroine agreed meekly, but her mind was already made up. She still slipped out of the estate and went to the black market as arranged. Ryan pointed to the item on the auction platform. The heroine followed his gaze. On the stage lay a plain-looking ruby that couldn't have been more ordinary. The auctioneer raised the gem and introduced it. "This ruby is an heirloom from a family that was wiped out. The starting bid is 500 gold. To avoid being cheated, the heroine cautiously raised it to 510. But as soon as she spoke, the auctioneer brought down the hammer at once. "Sold." Just like that, the heroine obtained the ordinary ruby for the low price of 510 gold. Only then did Ryan tell her the truth. This was no mere ruby. It was one of the 7 deadly sin-sealing stones. Legend says that the Empire's 7 great families sealed sin within them, and the Pedia family also possesses one such stone. The heroine had indeed heard rumors of the sealing stones. Such things should be hidden in a secret place that only the family head and heir can enter, under heavy guard. How could one end up on the black market? Ryan explained that there were originally 7 families charged with sealing sin, including the royal family, and now only 5 remain. The heroine asked what use the sealing stones actually had. Ryan answered gravely that they can summon the sins sealed within them. By making a deal with the sin, one can borrow its power, but the user must pay a price. Only now does Elodie realize that the core of a sealing stone is summoning sin and making a deal. Ryan reassures her that she doesn't need to be afraid. As the holder of a sealing stone, She can use the sin's power directly without paying any price, a secret not even the 5 great families know. The more the heroine hears, the more puzzled she becomes. If even the 5 great families don't know this, how do you? As if he had expected the question, Ryan admits on his own. I once made a deal with Pride. The heroine is shocked. Wasn't Pride sealed by the already destroyed Appelt family? And the ruby in her hand comes from another exterminated line, the Paitan family, and seals greed. For the first time, the heroine realizes that Ryan hides an alarming number of secrets, but for now she has no intention of digging deeper. The most important thing is to verify the stone's power. Following Ryan's instructions, she lightly places her hand on the ruby. The instant her fingertip touches the gem, golden light bursts out, and the blinding radiance engulfs Elodie in a flash. Ryan hadn't expected this at all, and is visibly stunned. He tries to stop it, but it's already too late. The heroine feels the world spin as her consciousness is forcibly dragged into a strange space. It is unreal and eerie, unlike anything she has ever seen. Still reeling with shock, she watches as a pitch-black fox saunters up in front of her. The heroine freezes. What is a fox doing in a place like this? The next moment, the fox speaks human language, its voice lazy and sly. Human, I am greed. The heroine forces herself to stay calm and asks where this place is. The fox snorts. Where else? This is nothing more than the temple where you humans sealed me long ago. It narrows its eyes and adds, by the way, you're the first human who's ever been able to come in here. Elodie's heart stirs. She desperately needs power to escape her predicament. Greed's ability might be just what she needs. So she says, I want to make a deal with you. I want your power. Greed looks her over, its tone full of disdain. Human, my power isn't cheap. You can't afford the price. The heroine sneers inwardly. Testing me? Useless. She's already heard the key information from Ryan. She speaks with certainty. Drop the act. As the holder of the sealing stone, I have the right to treat you as my slave and use you without paying any price. She reaches out her hand and orders. Let's start by practicing a handshake. From now on, I'm your master. In the heroine's eyes, this black fox is actually kind of cute and nothing like the ferocious being of legend. But Greed coldly declares that its master is someone else. The heroine demands to know who. With reverence in its voice, Greed answers, naturally, the greatest god in this world, Lady Ikora. The heroine isn't swayed in the slightest. Right now the sealing stone is in my hand, so you'd best recognize the situation. Without another word, she grabs Greed, intending to take it with her. The moment she touches it, Greed suddenly stops struggling, sniffs the air, and its eyes change in an instant. You carry my master's scent. At the same time, the prayer ceremony in the Temple of Ishtar was being held with great solemnity. Carl stood off to the side, his face full of impatience, quietly grumbling that the temple ritual was boring as hell. Just as the temple emissary was devoutly chanting the goddess's name, there was a dull plop. A figure actually fell from the sky and crashed straight into the fountain in the center of the temple. Everyone looked closely. It was Elodie. She sat in the water with a dazed expression, clearly not understanding what had just happened. The officiant immediately proclaimed in a loud voice, everyone, this is the savior sent down to the mortal world by the goddess herself. The Duke stepped forward at once, speaking to the priest with a complicated look. You are mistaken, Reverend. She is not a savior. She is my daughter, Elodie. With the ritual not yet finished and the matter far too bizarre, the Duke could only have Elodie settled in a nearby room for the time being. As he left, the Duke glanced back at Elodie, his eyes dark and icy. Elodie's heart clenched. She knew very well that that look was not worry, but the desire to kill. Human, what are you doing? Suddenly, Greed's voice sounded behind Elodie. The heroine immediately demanded, why did you teleport me to a place like this? Greed put on a completely innocent face. I don't know either. You can't blame me for this. I don't understand why it suddenly happened. It then twisted the knife. Besides, didn't you know? The goddess Ishtar is Lady Ikora's enemy. The heroine grimly thought that this indeed made sense. Right now, what she worried about most was Ryan. Would he be panicking? But on second thought, she felt Ryan might not care that much whether she lived or died. Elsewhere, once Ryan realized Elodie had disappeared, he immediately called Mario, his voice urgent and brooking no refusal. Send people to search for her. Even if you have to turn the entire continent upside down, bring Elodie back to me. Back on the heroine's side, the Duke and Duchess and both brothers all rushed into the room and demanded to know why she had appeared in the temple. Facing her family's questioning, the heroine decided that as long as the lie was reasonable enough, she could muddle through. She said calmly, I was out shopping with Ryan when I was suddenly pulled by some force into a strange place, and then without warning I fell into the temple. But Carl clearly didn't believe it. The heroine was about to go on when Greed's voice rang in her head. Human, why not go along with them and pretend to be the savior? It'll save you trouble. The Duchess added, Elodie, you should know how strong the temple's barrier is. How did you get in? Ashien, frowning, fixed a probing gaze on Elodie. What if Elodie really is the savior sent by the goddess? With things at this point, the heroine could only go with the flow and rely on the savior title to get by. Just then, a temple attendant came to announce that everyone was to gather at the fountain in an hour, and especially emphasized that they hoped the savior would attend as well. Dorothea clearly hadn't expected to see her here either. The Duke of Angelos muttered quietly to his daughter that Pedia must have pulled strings, bribing the priest so Elodie could appear at the fountain in such a way. The heroine's gaze swept across the crowd, picking out many familiar faces. Among them was Leon, head of House Klendel. She was quietly sighing over this when Dorothea came over to her of her own accord. Taking a closer look, the heroine noticed that Dorothea's illness was completely cured and her face was even more beautiful than before, but with an unnatural, overdone refinement. She's using a disguise spell, with her earrings as the medium. Greed reminded her in her mind. Dorothea sneered that Lady Elodie really was favored, able to make the Duke use his influence to pull temple strings and let her appear at the fountain in such a special way. If word spread that the Duke had colluded with the temple, public opinion of House Pedia and of Lady Elodie would plummet. Elodie shot back at once. "Are you speaking on behalf of House Angelos?" Dorothea froze. "I was only speaking casually. How did this turn into the family's position?" The heroine pressed her. "You're the heir of Angelos. Every word you say will be read as your family's stance." The heroine pressed forward step by step, not giving Dorothea a single breath of room. Accusing Pedia of improper collusion with the temple is not something that can be waved off with a laugh. "I've already explained the entire situation to the archpriest. I don't know why I fell into the temple either." Dorothea countered that Elodie had no proof of her own innocence. The heroine immediately fired back. "Then, do you have proof that my father colluded with the temple?" Throwing around smears against others and their families with no evidence at all. Is that the style of the Angelos heir? The heroine pushed it further. "If you don't believe me, I can ask the Pope to testify, to confirm that after meeting day began, the barrier was never tampered with." The Duke of Angelos's face darkened. Knowing that dragging this out would only damage the family, he immediately barked at Dorothea to stop and ordered her to apologize. However unwilling she was, Dorothea could only squeeze out a sorry under her father's pressure. The heroine added coolly, "That apology is awfully insincere." Staring at Dorothea's earrings, she went on, "I've always thought your earrings were beautiful. Why not give them to me as a gift of apology?" Lady Angelos quickly stepped in to smooth things over, forcing a smile. "Miss Elodie, those earrings are very dear to Dorothea. Why don't I give you my earrings instead?" The heroine's gaze dropped to the lady's hand, seeing through the disguise at a glance. "If you're so sincere, madam, then give me your ring." Lady Angelos's face went white in an instant, and she was completely stuck. Dorothea calculated that taking off the earrings wouldn't matter. As long as they stayed in the same space, the disguise spell would hold. So she took them off and offered them to Elodie. But just as the earrings were about to enter Elodie's hand, Elodie acted as if she'd failed to catch them. There was a sharp crack as they hit the ground and shattered. With the earrings broken, Dorothea's flawless face instantly reverted, utterly unlike before. Putting on an innocent look, the heroine said, "I didn't mean to." The Angelos' mother and daughter slunk away at once, terrified of humiliating themselves further. Though the Duke of Angelos stayed, his expression was also extremely ugly. Scanning the crowd, the heroine noticed a stranger who had been watching her the whole time. She tugged on Ashian's sleeve and quietly asked, "Brother, who is that? I've never seen him before." Ashian explained that he was Felix, aide to the Severus family and head of House Highclane. He was the Duke of Severus' nephew, and thus her cousin. The Duke of Severus is the heroine's biological father. It's said that he received the full education of a proper duke from childhood, with platinum blonde hair and bright red eyes, and that he values justice more than anyone. Yet strangely, the Duke of Severus has not appeared in public for 20 years, without explanation even within his own family. The heroine can't help wondering whether the Duke of Severus knows that his wife had a daughter. If she could be acknowledged as the daughter of House Severus, would she be able to escape her current predicament? While her thoughts are churning, the sealing ritual formally begins. Representatives of the 5 remaining great families take out their respective sin stones one by one and place them on the central sealing altar. The archpriest steps forward to invoke divine power and reinforce the seal. Just then, the sealing stone on the heroine's person emits a faint glow and reacts with a powerful resonance. The archpriest's eyes fly open as though he has sensed something, and his gaze locks unerringly onto Elodie. The heroine's heart lurches, and she flinches involuntarily. Sensing her unease, Ashian quietly reassures her, "Don't be afraid. I'm here." The sealing ritual concludes successfully in the end, and the prayer gathering nears its close. But the crown prince comes to seek out the heroine alone. The heroine is puzzled. What is he looking for me for at this hour? The crown prince stares at her, his tone carrying an odd emotion. "Aren't you even curious why I came?" The heroine grumbles inwardly that he used to treat her as coldly as a stranger. So why is he acting like a different person today? She answers evenly, If you have something to say, Your Highness, please say it. The Crown Prince asks how she managed to enter the temple. The heroine raises a brow. I don't think that's what Your Highness is truly curious about. After a brief silence, as though making up his mind, the Crown Prince asks, Is it that you want to break off the engagement? Elodie answers without hesitation, Yes. The Crown Prince's eyes darken, and there's a faint trace of hurt in his voice. Do you hate me that much? Elodie calmly replies, I only want to break off the engagement because I don't want to marry you. It's nothing personal against Your Highness. Besides, from my point of view, the one you should hate is me. Calling off the engagement is the best choice for both of us. The next day, when the heroine walked out of the temple gates, she caught sight of the archpriest standing not far away, looking as if he wanted to speak but, constrained by his position, ultimately said nothing. Elodie understood in her heart that her father would no longer allow her to come and go freely. What awaited her was most likely house arrest. She tentatively asked, Father, I'd like to stop by the mercenary company first. Without even thinking, the Duke refused outright. The Duchess chimed in from the side. Elodie, it's better if you stay at home for now. Just as Elodie was feeling disappointed, Ashian suddenly spoke up. Father, Mother, I'd also like to visit the mercenary company. I can go with my sister, and we can look out for each other on the road. The Duke hesitated a moment, then, thinking that nothing should happen with Ashian watching, nodded his approval. When the two of them arrived at the mercenary company, they found that Ryan wasn't there. After asking around, they learned that upon discovering Elodie's disappearance, Ryan had immediately taken people out to search for her and had not yet returned. A strange feeling stirred in the heroine's heart. She hadn't expected her sudden vanishing to provoke such a strong reaction from Ryan. She quietly resolved that she would have to find him as soon as possible. Right then, a familiar figure suddenly pulled her into a tight embrace. Ryan's voice was choked. I thought I was going to lose you again. The heroine soothed him softly. I'm fine now, don't worry. She keenly caught that word again, and her suspicions rose at once. There was fear and despair in Ryan's eyes, as if he had already lost her countless times. She was more certain than ever that Ryan was hiding enormous secrets. Watching their intimacy from the side, Ashian's face darkened instantly, his tone ice cold. Let go of my sister. A chill flashed through Ryan's eyes as he met Ashian head-on, and the air went taut in an instant. The heroine hurried to smooth things over, turning to Ryan and saying, I'm a bit tired today and want to go home first. Let's meet again tomorrow. Ryan gave her a long, deep look and watched her leave. In the carriage, Ashian fixed his eyes on Elodie, speaking gravely. Elodie, Ryan's feelings for you aren't simple. You'd better stay away from him. You're not thinking of taking him as your lover, are you? The heroine actually smiled at that. Even if I did have a lover, the Crown Prince wouldn't care, would he? Ashian was taken aback, then immediately pressed her. So the Crown Prince doesn't like you either? I don't like him either, the heroine admitted bluntly. She knew how the original story went. The Crown Prince would, in the end, fall in love with the heroine Estelle without the slightest hesitation. Only then did Ashian understand. Elodie's insistence on breaking off the engagement was simply because she doesn't like the Crown Prince. The heroine then shifted the topic, her tone turning serious. Brother, I want to ask you to investigate Ryan for me. I want to know what he's hiding. The next day, Ryan came to the Pedia Annex as promised. Elodie told him in full detail what had happened after she touched the sealing stone, being pulled into a strange space, meeting Greed, and being sent to the temple. After listening, Ryan's gaze fell on Greed, and he frowned as he asked Elodie, Is this little thing not quite right in the head? The heroine immediately asked Ryan what Greed's power was. Ryan thought for a moment and said Greed's power was most likely related to wealth and possessions. Legend has it that it has eyes that can see the true value of any object. Elodie's heart leapt. If that was true, she could get out of her financial crisis in a short time. She immediately asked Greed how long its power could last. Greed lazily replied that within a week, it could only be used for 3 seconds and only 3 times. You've got to be kidding me. Elodie couldn't help complaining. Greed slowly snapped back. Blame the long years of being sealed. Put up with it if you can. The heroine decided to use Greed's ability and try her luck again at an auction. She hadn't expected to run into that man again because they fancied the same item. Under the second prince's sticky, nauseating gaze, the heroine only wished he would stop trying to talk to her. The ring was the target she'd seen with Greed. She had to get it. In the end, she succeeded, winning the ring with the highest bid. Unfortunately for the second prince, he didn't get it. After purchasing the item, the two of them quickly left their seats. Once the item was confirmed, all that remained was to sign. The auction supervisor recognized her. She'd also bid on a ruby last time. That had been before Ryan was at her side. Just then, footsteps sounded behind them. The second prince and his entourage had actually followed them over. Seeing Elodie avert her gaze, the second prince assumed she was being shy. He smiled suggestively. There's a very nice restaurant nearby. Why don't I invite you there for a meal? Elodie rejected him outright. The second prince instead concluded that she was playing hard to get. Then how about a cafe? I'll book it out just for us, how about that? Elodie blinked innocently and asked, What's so impressive about that? I can do it too. With that, she turned to leave. The second prince reached out to stop her, but his hand was blocked. The atmosphere went tense in an instant. The second prince snapped coldly that a mere guard knight daring to stand in the way of royalty was committing a grave offense. But Ryan was not only unafraid, he radiated pressure as he replied in a threatening voice, "Step back." The second prince exploded. "A commoner dares to shout at royalty? So, what if father is fond of you? I'm a prince." A faint red light flickered in Ryan's eyes. In the next second, there was a sharp smack. A clear handprint appeared on the second prince's face. The second prince was utterly confused. What just happened? Did I just hit myself? Ryan allowed himself a small wicked smile. "Seems your highness is aware of how rude you've been. I'll be sure to report your behavior honestly to his majesty." Then, no matter how furiously the second prince ranted behind them, Elodie's heart pounded. Hopefully this won't cause trouble. But if not for Ryan stepping in, she would have been pestered by the second prince even longer. Seeing how unconcerned Ryan looked, it probably wasn't a big problem. What unsettled her more was the scene of the second prince slapping himself. Ryan had definitely used some kind of power. It had been the same at the cliff, and now again here. If it wasn't magic, could it be authority? But Ryan clearly didn't belong to the four great families. With Elodie frequently talking about breaking off the engagement lately, someone as scheming as the second prince would only keep looking for excuses to get close to her. Ryan suggested that she simply use him. The heroine was stunned. Ryan continued, calmly, "Any role is fine. Assistant, guard, even lover. In a darkness so deep you can't see your hand, you're the only light. Everything I have is just waiting for you to claim it." But Elodie couldn't understand why. Ryan refused to explain. She knew he was willing to give selflessly. But how long could that last? She couldn't repay it and didn't want to be in his debt. Rather than accept kindness of unknown origin, it was better to refuse it outright. She had thought she would tell Ryan everything when the time was right. But would that opportunity ever really come? In any case, she didn't want to keep arguing and chose to head back for now. Just before leaving, Elodie suddenly turned and said, "Don't look down on yourself, even if that person is you." As Elodie returned to the annex, she was startled by being called the people's favorite. It turned out that before she came back, 3 letters had already arrived. The first was from the young lady's friend. Judging from the signature, it should be Mario, vice captain of the Sky Eagle's mercenary company, likely meaning there was news on the investigation she'd commissioned before. The second letter was from the mage Elby, most likely to say the magical tools were finished. The third had already been opened by the butler, a handwritten letter from the emperor, summoning her for a meeting the next afternoon. Since the butler had opened it, her father would surely know as well. The maid, on the other hand, really missed that little black fox, and from her father's side, he would soon be coming to see her. Sure enough, when they met, her father immediately refused to let her go. But this was a personal letter from His Majesty. It was unlikely to be a trivial matter. The heroine guessed it might be to pursue what happened at the gathering, but she might not necessarily have to go in person. Elodie felt a bit awkward. Even for one of the 4 great families like Pedia, disobeying an imperial summons would be troublesome. And it was obvious her father didn't trust sending her alone into the royal city. She'd caused too much trouble lately. In the end, he sighed and let her go. Once she stepped out the door, though, Elodie felt something was off. Given the timing, the crown prince should already have raised the matter of breaking off the engagement, at least once. She ought to meet him as well. The next day, Ryan escorted her to the entrance and stopped there, going no farther. As Elodie walked down the corridor, she wondered if she'd walked into a funeral home. Stay in an atmosphere like this long enough, and you'd fall ill even if you were healthy. The moment she pushed open the door, a strange smell hit her. The pungent scent was coming from an incense burner. Was this medicinal incense? Elodie approached His Majesty's bedside as arranged. She knew his health was poor, but hadn't expected it to be this bad. The royal family's condition was always top secret. Yet the emperor's near-total absence from official functions and his delegation of most state affairs to the crown prince were practically a public announcement that his health was deteriorating. Now, the emperor looked like a corpse with its eyes closed. They exchanged a few pleasantries. The emperor called her savior in words, but his gaze was that of a man watching a beast. The reason he'd summoned her was nothing more than what had happened at the gathering. But she was no savior. The emperor didn't care whether it was true, as long as the world believed it. That was enough. He intended to elevate her as a savior. Recently, mutated monsters had been rampaging everywhere, attacking homes and throwing the populace into panic. The High Temple suspected these incidents were related to the cult of Ikra. That group had once disappeared from sight, but a few years ago began roaming about, proclaiming that the world will be reduced to ruins. Walentia worships Ishtar as its deity and recognizes her as the state religion, treating those who follow the underworld god Ikra as heretics. The founding myth itself was meant to counter the 7 deadly sins Ikra had spread. Ishtar granted authority to 7 heroes. But now, with heresy rising and monsters running rampant, people's faith was naturally shaken. The so-called savior was only a front, a scapegoat to stand out there and take the blame. Yet the emperor insisted she would become the people's hope. But her public title was Pedia's illegitimate daughter. Who would believe that such a person was suddenly a savior, especially a powerless, illegitimate girl with no authority? If they really wanted a savior for the masses, they might as well have the temple choose someone suitable. That would work better. As for divine oracles, that was the temple's concern, not hers. At this point, the emperor suddenly brought up Ryan. He was indeed remarkable, and the emperor hadn't expected Elodie to have snatched him up first. But Ryan was not the sort to obey anyone's orders on a whim. The emperor then mentioned the engagement. He had been dissatisfied with it before and had considered having Adamir break it off. So it turned out that the crown prince coming to see her that day had been on the emperor's orders. But she'd already settled that matter. There was no need for His Majesty to worry. She had spoken with the crown prince as well. Fortunately, the emperor also supported dissolving the engagement. With that, she took her leave. After a long silence, he hadn't chatted with a young person in ages. The emperor realized he had actually enjoyed it a little. Maybe tonight, he could finally sleep soundly. As Elodie turned back and opened the door, she ran right into the crown prince. She quietly told him, His Majesty has fallen asleep. For some reason, though, a wave of dizziness suddenly washed over her. Thankfully, Adamir caught her in time. Something was pouring in endlessly, like poison. Elodie tossed him her handkerchief. Cover your nose and mouth with this. Then she turned and rushed back into the room to check on the emperor. The prince hadn't yet covered his face. The air was indeed poisonous. He could only do as he was told. The smell was pleasant, like a mix of flowers and fruit. Elodie yanked open the curtains. It was more important to air out the room first. She could sense the poison in the air and could purify it, but she couldn't say that outright. So she simply invoked her mother. She'd studied toxicology under her. After all, her mother was the continent's strongest poison maker, Themyspedia. This incense seemed to have been burning for several years already, which meant the emperor had been exposed to the fumes for at least a year or more. After inhaling it herself, she was sure the incense was poisoned. The toxin wasn't extremely potent, but the emperor's body was still steadily deteriorating. Perhaps this poison had to be layered with another to become deadly. So she decided to taste it again to confirm. The crown prince watched in horror. Elodie pushed him aside. I have to try it myself to be sure, and to test the reaction after inhalation. Besides, I'm used to it. The moment the words left her mouth, she regretted them, because the prince was staring at her with a grave look. Elodie quickly added, I have a resistance to poison. Don't worry. But the crown prince was all too familiar with this sort of thing. He'd been trained in poison resistance since childhood, so he knew better than anyone how cruel the price of building such resistance was. Even for a lady of House Pedia, having poison resistance was very unusual. At that moment, he only wanted one thing, for the Duke's daughter not to do anything reckless. This whole affair might well be used to hook a very big fish, and the investigation had to be carried out in secrecy. There were excellent alchemists in House Pedia. They should be able to create an antidote. After all, she was a Pedia. The emperor had been poisoned too long to recover at once, but with ongoing treatment, he would surely improve. Once, she might have left things alone, but now she had authority. She could not just watch someone die. If the crown prince was uneasy, then he could pay her a consultation fee. Adamir's face flushed scarlet. The Elodie before him was inexplicably adorable. They left the palace together. Since the crown prince hadn't brought up the engagement, she'd do it herself. They were almost at the gate anyway. Ryan was already waiting outside. From a distance, the crown prince looked at them, feeling an unexpected hint of envy toward Ryan. The engagement was on the verge of being dissolved, yet his thoughts about her had only grown more tangled of late. It was time for him to go back to being what he was supposed to be. As soon as Elodie returned to the estate, she was summoned to her mother's rooms. Her mother asked whether she'd been doing well, whether she'd done anything bad lately. What the fox beside her was. It'll probably shed a lot of fur, won't it? Since you've brought it back, take proper care of it and see it through to the end. Before they'd spoken more than a few lines, her father summoned her again. Her mother smiled helplessly. They really don't give us any time to talk. Watching her mother leave, Elodie was a little surprised. She hadn't asked a single question about the trip to the royal city or about the little black fox. When she went to see her father, she told him almost everything except the poison, including the matter of breaking off the engagement. The Duke frowned. Didn't you like the crown prince? I thought breaking the engagement was just you talking in anger. Elodie hurriedly explained, I don't have any feelings for his highness at all. I hope you'll allow the engagement to be dissolved this time, or I'll have to use other means. To her surprise, her father actually agreed. He only warned her not to act on impulse again. After all, the last time she tried to break the engagement, she sent a letter straight to the first prince without even consulting her guardian. Elodie added, I've also spoken to His Majesty about this. He's already agreed, and he actually wanted me to break the engagement in the first place. At that, the Duke flew into a rage. That damned emperor. He dares look down on my daughter? He's about to die, so he's gone mad, has he? With that, her father turned and was ready to head straight for the palace. Elodie was stunned on the spot. She hurried forward to calm him down. As long as her father agreed, she could dissolve the engagement. It was just a matter of going through the formalities. It wouldn't take long. Still, Elodie couldn't help worrying. Would dissolving the engagement shake the relationship between the first prince and House Pedia? After all, the prince had accepted this engagement only for Pedia's power. The second prince had Empress sell vassalite behind him, and the first prince's side was already weak. Hearing that his daughter could think in these terms, her father was actually a little pleased. You really have grown up. So he stated directly, nothing will change. If the second prince becomes emperor, none of us will have any way out. Of course, if there's someone you fancy, you can just say so, and I'll go catch him for you. Only when he learned that Elodie had no such idea did he truly relax. Elsewhere, someone was discussing a shortage of funds. The money had to be prepared within 2 weeks. Once the funding was settled, he would go teach Dorothea, as agreed. There was a newspaper on the table. The man casually glanced at it. On it was the news of the first prince and Elodie dissolving their engagement. That would certainly make Dorothea happy. So, he went into the young lady's room. Dorothea sat dejectedly in front of her dressing table, not even practicing her authority. Hadn't she always said that Elodie was just a powerless, illegitimate girl, while she herself possessed the authority of one of the 4 great families? The only difference between them was authority. Only by constant practice could she become better. Even with this damned skin condition, she could still make an antidote for it, but she had to start practicing. With that, he tossed the newspaper in front of her. On it was the news she liked to see. He said coldly, I'm heading back. Remember to practice your authority. Don't slack off. Dorothea's authority could only be used by him. Please come in, Miss Lily. He received your letter. Standing under the umbrella was Elodie, a little annoyed. Mario, if you keep sending letters like that, you're going to cause trouble. Since she didn't have any friends at all, signing it that way only made it look weirder. But Mario didn't believe she had no friends. Elodie, however, said seriously, I don't have any friends. Back to business. The results of the investigation were in. The man's name was Gave, and he lived in the Duke of Angelo's estate. He was the master of the Southern Magic Tower. Mario casually asked how she felt now that the engagement was dissolved. Happy? In that case, it was definitely closer to happy. She wasn't going to get married in the future anyway, and although the plot had already deviated from the original, she had no idea how things would go from here. But once Estelle appeared, the first prince would surely fall for her. And before long, Elodie would leave House Pedia, become independent, and depart the capital, Somnia. Ashian came by to congratulate her on the broken engagement, and told her what he'd found about the mercenary King Ryan. From Ryan's birth to his appearance in Somnia, there was not a single trace to be found, as if he didn't exist at all. Even though the Emperor's confidants said he came from the slums, they still couldn't track down any record of him. Having gotten this far, Ashian only became more serious and wanted to dig even deeper. Elodie believed her brother would definitely find something. But the moment Ashian mentioned compensation, Elodie immediately played dumb. She had to go remind Martha to prepare her bathwater. Thanks, brother. See yourself out. The little fox was putting on a very good act at her side and was clearly enjoying brother's massage. Elodie added a mild warning. My brother's authority is erasure. If he touches you, you'll die. The little fox looked utterly incredulous. The next day, she went to find Aces, only to discover that the Western Magic Tower was in utter chaos. Aces, on the verge of collapse, declared that everything was ruined. That was the temperature-maintaining, magical device he'd sunk all his assets into. The product had already launched, but only 2 units had sold. Aces was furious. Now everyone was laughing at him, and Elodie's money had gone down the drain with his. But something was wrong. According to the original story, this product had been very popular. Although the process wasn't described, maybe it flopped first and then went viral, so she couldn't give up yet. After all, it had only launched. The product presentation hadn't even been held. She needed to inspect the device first. She then discovered that Aces had actually made a device that maintains a hot temperature in the middle of summer, which was basically like trying to sell electric blankets in summer. But she would make this device a success. Aces, however, had lost confidence and was planning to switch to developing combat magic circles. But this concerned Elodie's money. She absolutely could not let it end like this. So she proposed a bet. There were still 500 units in stock next time they launched. They would definitely sell out. Aces found it unbelievable, but didn't really care. After all, if they didn't sell, the one who lost would be her. They fixed the deadline at 1 week after the product presentation, and everything had to be done her way. If Aces lost, he would cast a spell for her once. But what Elodie really wanted was money. At that moment, the Crown Prince walked down a certain corridor. This was where he and Elodie had first met. She had been very young then, lost, yet pretending nothing was wrong, leaving a deep impression on him. She hadn't seemed to be waiting for anyone. More like she hoped no one would notice her. Because that impression was so strong, he'd sent someone to help the child. At the time, the crown prince hadn't known that the girl was his fiancée, nor had he known that making an engagement could be as easy as breaking one. His father's condition had visibly improved. It seemed the duke's daughter hadn't lied about having an excellent alchemist in her family. The emperor distrusted anything related to Pedia. If he knew the antidote had come from the duke's daughter, things would be even more complicated. The dissolution of the engagement was now in its final stage. Barring surprises, it would be officially announced today. Elodie seemed like a child with a very strong pride. Had she hidden her fangs? In truth, the one who had poisoned the emperor was already clear. But even knowing that, the emperor was powerless. From the moment he lost his health, the empress's faction had gradually seized real power. The emperor's impotence only made the crown prince's position more difficult. Previously, the emperor had told him to choose Angelos. Thinking about it carefully, there was no way he could marry Dorothea. That would be taking the easy way out, and he didn't want to. The emperor had even joked that only a girl like Elodie would be willing to marry a strange-tempered man like him. This matter would surely stir up a storm, and the crown prince couldn't help wondering whether Elodie would feel pressured because of it. Meanwhile, after the engagement was dissolved, Elodie was over the moon. She was finally free. She even made a commemorative clipping, treating it as a milestone. Now she could openly plan her trip to Somnia with an easy mind. Of course, before she identified the mastermind behind the assassins who had tried to kill her, she would remain with House Pedia for the time being. Only one thing remained: making money. As long as the product launch went well in a few days, she could sign with a trade company and distribute the magical tools across the entire continent. In other words, as long as the presentation went smoothly, she would get rich overnight. During preparations, however, she still had to keep brewing the antidote she'd promised the crown prince. Doing it behind the duchess's back was exhausting. On the day of the highly anticipated new magical device presentation, the central hall of the magic tower was packed. Most of those present were nobles or wealthy merchants, and she even recognized a few faces from banquets. Even if someone recognized her here, they wouldn't know she was the investor behind the mage LB. But because she'd stayed up late working on the marketing plan, her haggard face was mistaken for crippling heartbreak after the broken engagement. Even Ryan, seeing her like this, quietly asked if she was all right. She grumbled inwardly. Why does he have to use such a handsome, magnetic voice to tempt people? And rumors were already spreading outside that she and Ryan had something going on. People were gossiping quite openly. Ryan, however, seemed not to care at all. The presentation was about to begin. The devices showcased early on were almost all offensive magical tools meant for combat use only. The greatest strength of magical tools is that they let ordinary people who can't handle mana use magic. With monsters threatening people everywhere these days, offensive tools were in high demand and naturally very popular. By contrast, lifestyle-oriented tools were often seen as worthless and even tended to depreciate. Finally, it was her device's turn. Elodie glanced at the time, anxiety tightening in her chest. It was about time. If they didn't come, she really would be bankrupt. Fortunately, they showed up, and they rushed to be the first to try it. These people were renowned as the finest blacksmiths. The weapons and armor forged by dwarves were top tier in quality. With their extraordinary sensitivity to even the slightest temperature difference, the dwarves were sure to see the value of a temperature-maintaining tool. The final result was that the debut magical tool from rookie mage LB became a smash hit, with the magic tower working non-stop to keep up with demand. Aces was overjoyed to the point of madness. But his invention shouldn't just be sold inside the tower. He also needed to sign a distribution contract with a trade company. And for signing contracts, Elodie's help was indispensable. Offers for exclusive cooperation poured in all at once. The first to speak up was the Duke of Angelos. The second was Count Heiklane. She knew him as well. He was a collateral relative and aide to the Duke of Severus, her cousin. Aces was a genius of magic, but knew nothing about contracts. Everyone at the tower was busy with their own work. Leaving the negotiations to Elodie was practically perfect. Out of nowhere, Aces said to her, "You're special." This was the first time Elodie had ever heard anyone describe her that way. After all, up to now, most people had only seen her as useless. It wasn't just because she was her mother's daughter. There was also a strange feeling, as if they had known each other for a long time, even though they'd clearly never met before. Elodie agreed. The only problem was that Mage LB didn't exist. What was he going to do about that? Aces, of course, found it obvious. "Of course I'll go in disguise." On the day of negotiations with the Angelos Trade Company, Elodie disguised herself as LB, changing both her appearance and voice. Even so, she tried to speak as little as possible, afraid of being recognized. The Angelos side immediately offered a 70% share. Sensing a trap, Elodie decided to look over the draft contract first. On the surface, the terms were indeed attractive. They even stressed that this was the first time they were offering such a large investment to a new mage. But in the fine print in a corner it stated that they required the production method for the device. Aces also felt something was off and asked for her opinion. This was exactly the sort of thing Elodie excelled at handling. She told Aces not to worry. She first commented that the terms were good. Then, right as they were about to sign, she accidentally spilled the ink. Taking the chance, she voided that copy. "This one won't do. Please prepare a new one." The Angelos people were, of course, ready for that. She took the replacement contract, glanced over it, and then gave a mischievous smile. "We're not signing." The whole routine had been to toy with Angelos. After all, if they wanted to distribute the device long-term, they had to at least pretend to maintain good relations with the Magic Tower. And chances were they wouldn't be meeting again anyway. The Angelos representative slammed the door and stormed off in a fury, and Aces muttered that they were horribly rude. Elodie just grinned even more wickedly. That voided contract in the trash could later be kept as evidence. After things fell through with Angelos, they negotiated with the Dob, Jurtai, and Sal trade companies. Everyone's terms were similar, making it hard to decide for the moment. Now, only the Highclane company was left. It was said that the top representative, Felix Highclane, would be coming in person. Though she had never spoken with him properly, their eyes had met a few times. She didn't want to be exposed. Only after Ryan and Aces both reassured her did she relax a little. Besides, with a bit of magic, Ryan could erase his presence. But when she actually saw Count Highclane, she realized he was completely different from the man she'd seen before. And, as it turned out, the 2 units sold earlier had been bought by his side. The Count was a brilliant speaker and had Aces floating with just a few compliments. When the profit split came up, he immediately offered 80%. This was an exceptional condition no previous company had proposed. Worried it might be a trap, Elodie stated flatly that they would not be providing the production formula. The Count only laughed. Who would ask for something so thuggish? But he did set another condition. Any future magical tools LB released were to be bundled under the same terms. Because LB was the best, he wanted to monopolize LB's entire value. Elodie was stunned on the spot. Was that a confession? AC shot to his feet and slapped the table. "You have excellent taste. Let's sign." Sign it. The problem was that Aces had just told Elodie to make the decision, and now he'd lost his head the moment he was praised. What was she supposed to do with him? Fortunately, the terms themselves were not disadvantageous. The Count calmly said they could take their time checking the contract and send it later to the Sever's capital residence. His composure and trust made Elodie feel that he was likely reliable. He rose and took his leave. "We'll meet again soon." Elodie was completely at a loss. Back home, she collapsed straight onto her bed. She hadn't felt this relaxed in a long time. Things had more or less been set in motion. The fox wanted to go out just then, but she absolutely refused to part from the mattress. She was just drifting off when the butler knocked and brought in letters for the young lady. She clearly had no friends and didn't move in society. Logically, there shouldn't be any invitations at all. Yet the number of letters was absurd. All of them were invitations to various gatherings. Apparently, what happened at the Temple of Ishtar had been written up in magazines. They were calling her the savior who would deliver the people. Among them was an invitation from the Duchess of Angelos. The heroine's instinct told her they were up to something again. There was no need to fall for it. There were so many letters she had no idea when she'd be able to reply to them all. More surprising still was that there was even an invitation from Sever's. She had never had any dealings with them. The invitation said they hoped she would come to the estate for a close exchange. Ever since Duke Richard Sever's had vanished from public view, that estate had never been open to outsiders. She wasn't sure whether it was a trap, but she would definitely go. Just then, a figure suddenly climbed in through the window, but she had no time to mess around with him. Carl's first words were, "You're going to Sever's? Then I'm going too." Elodie refused at once. "No need. Having Ryan with me is enough." Rejected, Carl didn't look the least bit discouraged. He only added lazily, "Father hates the Duke of Sever's. If he finds out, do you think he'll let you go?" The brat was threatening her. Meanwhile, in another office, the Crown Prince had a private meeting with the Duke. Lately, His Majesty had regained his clarity thanks to the medicines made by Pedia's alchemist. Only then did the Duke realize that his daughter had truly been a great help. Even the eyesore of a daughter-in-law, in the Emperor's eyes, could finally set his mind at ease. The Crown Prince smiled. "I didn't expect you to have already guessed Father's thoughts." From the outside, the Duke didn't seem particularly doting toward his daughter. If everyone else saw it that way, it would be even harsher for the person concerned. Faced with a child who only wanted a word of praise, he didn't even know what to do. Parenting was too hard. After leaving the office, Adamir suddenly felt that he ought to thank the Duke's daughter in person. The Duke's daughter's annex should be this way. Come to think of it, though, the atmosphere there had changed. Before, you'd hardly see a single servant. He asked a maid where the young lady was, so he went to the garden. She wasn't there. Then to the library. She happened not to be there either. Then to her room. Still nowhere to be found. That subtle realization. Sure enough, the the young lady was avoiding him and had made him run around to all these places. Elodie was helpless as well. She thought that after the engagement was dissolved, she should avoid meeting him as much as possible, so why was he still chasing her? She'd assumed hiding under a tree outside would let her escape. But in the next second, a hand suddenly appeared behind her. The crown prince had actually found her and asked why she was hiding from him. Elodie felt that since the engagement had been broken off, there was no need for them to see each other. If he hadn't found her, she had planned to keep hiding. After all, the crown prince would feel uncomfortable seeing her. But Adamir said he didn't feel awkward at all, and he didn't dislike the duke's daughter in the slightest. Yet, everyone knew the crown prince hated Elodie. Now he suddenly came out with a baffling "then it's fine if we're not awkward," which only made it stranger. Elodie could only think the crown prince must have been poisoned to say something like that. She even joked that if she were thrown out of the house, she hoped the crown prince would take her in. Elodie's constant attempts to avoid him made Adamir wonder, could there be a third party? Elodie shook her head at once. Of course not. Adamir gave a somewhat helpless smile. He explained that he simply wanted them to be able to greet each other normally instead of hiding from one another. They couldn't possibly avoid meeting at official functions in the future. They couldn't be running away every time. At last, Adamir stated his purpose. He had come to say goodbye. He owed a debt to the duke's daughter, and he would repay it. As for how, he had already decided. Elodie was stunned. In the blink of an eye, the day came to visit the Severus estate. Afraid word would reach her father, she took a private carriage. She brought Carl along. If he didn't go, he'd definitely cause trouble. The fox was taken as well. No matter what was said, it refused to return to the sealing stone, so she had no choice but to bring it out in its summoned form. Carl stared at the fox with open envy. It could stay with his sister all the time. Elodie was already tired before they even reached Severus. When they finally arrived, the butler was waiting at the door. The estate was concealed behind a barrier. Outsiders couldn't see the interior at all. The butler said that Count Heiklane allowed only Lady Pedia herself to enter. Everyone else was forbidden. Carl was immediately displeased. Not even a guard may go in? The butler answered politely that only those granted permission could enter. But pets could. Carl's face lit up at once. Pets can? Then I should be fine, because I'm also my sister's pet. The butler paused in silence. Carl, still not satisfied, piled it on. I'm my sister's little dog. Elodie's fist flew. The two of them started bickering right in front of the butler. Elodie felt utterly mortified, spouting nonsense and making things difficult for others. Where on earth did he learn his manners? Helpless. The butler said he would inform the count of their situation and ask them to wait. Elodie could only think that their family education had completely failed. Soon the butler returned and said the young lord could enter as well. The moment they passed through the barrier, however, the fox's fur stood on end. As it crossed the threshold, its body burned like it was being seared by flames. Was it because Severus' authority was purification? But once inside, the pain vanished. What surprised Elodie even more was that the estate's atmosphere was nothing like she had imagined. It was almost like a pure white space, no less than what one would expect from Severus, one of the four great families. And today was her first formal conversation with the count. She couldn't afford any mistakes. When they entered the receiving room, the count was already waiting. He clearly wasn't pleased that Carl had come along. Elodie instantly regretted bringing Carl. The count first asked what the fox was called. When she said Little Black, a subtle smile appeared on his face. Seeing this, the fox actually trembled slightly, not daring to look at the count directly. Felix only smiled and praised that the fox was very cute. He explained that he'd invited the young lady this time to build a connection. The rumors about her fell into two broad categories. One was that she was the ugly duckling illegitimate daughter of House Pedia. The other, that she was the savior who would rescue the world. With such pointed rumors, he was all the more curious. What kind of person was Elodie really? Elodie said nothing. Was that really all? There had to be more. And to go any further, she'd have to send Carl out. Elodie told Carl to wait outside.
Carl had to leave for now.
On his way out, he tossed back a line. If the count dares try anything, Severus will be reduced to rubble. After Carl left, the count rose with a smile. Let's talk somewhere else. Behind a bookshelf lay a hidden passage. The passage was kept very clean. At its end was a greenhouse, and in front of the greenhouse stood a coffin. Calmly, the count said, "The one lying here is my uncle, head of House Severus, Richard, and Elodie's biological father."